Today's story is about a nurse who needed help. She had already done everything that she knew to do. She was on a bunch of meds, and she'd already seen a chiropractor without finding the answers that she needed. And she was scared because not only was she in terrible pain, but she was at a level of dysfunction that was affecting even her bladder control. What made the difference was she found a chiropractic office that told her the principle of chiropractic and told her that story of how her body could heal once it was clear of nervous system interference. And then, because they're masters of the technique, they gave her a great adjustment, and the rest is history. So I'm excited for you to hear that. I'm Jenna Quentin, founder of Adjust Your Media and host of What Chiropractic Doesn't Cure, Stories of Innate podcast. And one of the juicy little things in today's episode is we talk about how can you find a great chiropractor in your area. So let's dig in. Welcome back to What Chiropractic Doesn't Cure, Stories of Innate podcast. Today I have Dr. Rebecca Yaun. She's a chiropractor in Rome, Georgia. She also is a continued education speaker and an adjunct professor in the chiropractic science division at Life University. And she's mama to a vibrant little girl. So welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Alrighty, so I'm looking forward to this. As always, let's tell a story. Tell us about somebody whose life improved with chiropractic care.
So I have a woman who's probably been with me now for a little over 2 years. And she came to me after being really hurt. She couldn't walk. And she had gone to see another chiropractor who did like an initial exam, took x-rays, never adjusted her, but told her she has to be seen this much and it's going to cost this much money. And she said, can I just get an adjustment to see like how this does for me? And when I tell you she couldn't walk, she crawled into the office, bent forward, hunched over. And so I was a little upset at this other person. Take care of the patient. So when she came to me and I met her in the room, she was telling me, Dr. Rebecca, I can't walk. I can't stand up straight. I'm having issues controlling my bladder right now because she's just in so much pain. And what made it worse is she's a nurse.
Oh boy.
So if there's anybody who knows their body and knows how healing is, it's this woman, right? So I do the exam, we adjust her, and I told her the story. My job is to remove the interference, to allow your body to heal in the way it needs to, and we're going to go from there. So I'm going to adjust you today. I'm going to send you home. I'll bring you back. We'll go over your x-rays. We'll see how you did. Then we'll come up with a game plan. And she looked at me like, you're going to adjust me today? Yes. So I adjusted her, and me being of like limited mind, sometimes I didn't know what the adjustment would do. I knew it would be better. How much better? I didn't know. So this was probably on a Monday. She came back a Wednesday and she walked in the room standing upright and she's crying. I'm like, why are you crying? She goes, I slept all night. My pain went from like this to this and I'm functioning now. And she goes, thank you. And I'm like, you're welcome, but that's your body. It's connected. And so I went over x-rays with her, and it amazed me the difference of me and this other guy. A fear tactic world to loving on your patient, telling them the truth about what chiropractic is, and then making a recommendation. And so I told her, this is what I recommend, and we'll go from there. Now, what made this a very interesting story is, as a nurse, she grew up believing in medicine, right? This is what we do. And she was on a lot of medicine. And after a few adjustments, after a couple months, she goes, I want to start coming off some of my medicine. Do you have an MD I can work with to get off some of this pain medication? What can I do to strengthen my back? So adjusting her and getting her connected, she wanted to change her whole life. And she was on this path of wellness now, right? Come from this world of medicine, I seek a pill for everything, to I don't want to take these. And so now 2 years in, I've taken care of her and her husband. And I'm the first person she comes to now when something's going on in the body. Her husband just happened to have a major fracture across his leg. And she goes, when can he come in? The surgeon did his job. When can we come in to you? And can he sit in a chair? Absolutely, come in. And so, she's in PT. She's got her strength back in her body. We've gone from like pain medication to non-pain medication whatsoever. We're not on any. This is a twofold story. Chiropractors do your job. Love on the patient. The money will come when you take care of them the right way. And I wish the other chiropractor, I could kind of smack him in the back of the head. I understand your care plan, but how do you know what she needs if you haven't even touched her yet? And so like for new doctors, we're going to talk about that. how do you know what they need until you lay your hands on them and you see what their body can do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I love that you really blend this passion for people with like your mama nurturing side. And I feel like people, I know that people see that and experience it. It's like when your child is sick and you lay your hands on them. I'm not a chiropractor. I often wish I was, but even just as a mother, laying your hands on your child so that they can feel you and they can feel, like you said, that you care about them, that you're going to identify where there's dysfunction, you're going to help.
Yeah.
And, touch is so powerful. I think, they talk about touch being one of the love languages, but it's one that we all speak.
Yeah.
It's one that we all need. And how infrequently and it depends, I guess, what culture you're in and what circles you're in. But so many adults, especially, go through life just without anybody just laying
Hmm.
hands on them, giving them a hug, definitely not checking their nervous system and adjusting them.
Yeah. And it's encouragement from us to be the anchor.
Hmm.
This is what I'm recommending. This is why I'm recommending that. And, when she would come in sometimes and she's like, well, I felt this. I'm like, it's okay. It's okay. You're not going to go back to where you were. You're connected. You're adjusted. The body is healing. And she goes, you're always so uplifting. And I'm like, there's always positive to look at. You're walking. You're nowhere near back where you were. And she's like, thank you for reminding me where I came from to what I am right now. I'm like, absolutely.
Yes. Yes. Well, and that is part of it too, isn't it? Like the certainty and authority in what you say, but
Yeah.
also in your touch. Both back each other up. That
They
you're
do.
not just words, you're not just like, oh, it'll be fine. They can feel the certainty in your touch. I got checked last week, and my doctor just kind of came along my spine and was like, ooh, what's that? We're going to get that cleared up. And even just hearing those words of, he found it,
Mhm.
whatever it was. And, I don't need a specific number. I don't need to know what his line of drive is or anything. As the patient on the table, I hear the certainty and I hear the love. And like you said, the recommendation, here's what we're going to do. And that matters so much. I love too that you mentioned, that she was having bladder issues, that she was aware of the levels of dysfunction, not
Mhm.
just pain, but things were not working right.
Yeah. And she was scared. I mean, as a nurse, you know what that means. So she has that medical brain, but then she forgets, like, when you're in all that pain, what else the body will go through, how it affects you. And just the emotional. I'm sure going to a chiropractor and being told this is what you need, but not knowing her, not knowing how she's healing, like that had to be like kind of a slap in the face to be like, nope, you need 3 times a week and it's going to be this much. And she's like, can I get checked?
Yeah. Yeah.
That to me, that was shocking. Like, take care of the person.
Yeah. Well, and yes, how reassuring it is, just like whatever we say or whatever advice we can give. I think about even my younger sisters when maybe they're coming to me and I have all the advice, I have all of the things, and maybe what they need is the listening ear, the hug, and
Yeah.
that touch of saying, like, I see you. And then, like you said, the order of things, that then your recommendation connects a little bit better.
Hmm. It does.
I love too that you mentioned about her really believing in meds and that medical mindset. I think so many people, one, don't understand what chiropractic is, but sometimes think, oh, you're going to judge me for this. You're going to be like, throw all of that out, from day one. And that
Yeah.
can be
No.
scary. I can
Yeah.
imagine for a nurse or anybody who just has grown up in a medical mindset that can be really, really scary too, to be like, hold up, like, this is what has been working for me, even if it seems like, well, I'm not sure it's working for you.
I'm a little different. Like, I do work with our medical community because there's a
Hmm.
time and a place for both of us, but I want to make sure I have the best people that are going to listen. Like, I have
Yeah.
nurse practitioners, I have pediatricians, I have people that are more natural minded. So
Hmm.
I can make that referral for my patient because I care about you in my office, but I also care about the people who are going to take care of you, that we can work together for the betterment of them. And so
Yes.
instead, I'm very weird. People are like, you shouldn't work with medical. Well, how are they going to know what we do if
Exactly.
you always just push them away? And oh no, there's a time and a place.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
time. So I make sure, like when I first moved to Rome 14 years ago, I created that network
I love
that when
that.
I needed it, I can call them on their cell phone and go, hey, I've got this going on. Can you step in or can you tell me, is it what I think it is?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so with her, I got her to somebody who listened, who could get her off of the drugs the right way. I didn't
Sure.
tell her to stop taking them.
Right.
That's not our scope, but it's her scope. And she said, this is what I want to do. And she was working with a wonderful nurse practitioner who got her where she wanted to be.
I love that. Yeah, that collaborative piece is so important in all kinds of things. So, I want to talk a little bit about your work with students. So, tell us a little bit, what classes are you teaching? What's your role there?
So in chiro science, it is the technique part. So I am in the technique world. So I have taught full spine, the side posture adjustment. I've taught how you do the cervicals. I've taught how you do the thoracics, right? Full spine method. I've taught Thompson, which is the drop tables, and I'm the lead professor for full spine one, which is the side posture, and advanced Thompson, which is, looking at drop tables and extremities. And I've done that for many years now. And I tell these students, you can be masterful at one, but you better be proficient at many.
Mm,
Unless you're going to be a straight, like Gunstead full spine doctor, if the patient can't tolerate that level of adjustment, then you got to refer them out. And if you
hmm
don't want to do that, then you better be proficient at many different techniques, because every technique has a different part of the vertebral subluxation complex that it can affect. And most people don't know that. So, like, if I want to hit all five of the parts of the VSC, Gonstead is the only technique that does all five. But
Okay.
my patient can't tolerate maybe that much push, right? And that's when activator or Thompson or, SOT, those become better, or toggle. And it's about, what are you trying to achieve in your patient? Are they sympathetic all the time where they're always like on fight or flight mode? Then you got to get them to the parasympathetic world, which is rest and digest. So I need to use like an upper cervical adjustment on them. I need to use less force. So when I teach students, learn what the technique is for.
There you
What
go.
part of the VSC is it doing? And then how is that going to relate to who you're going to see? I practice many different techniques, and it's depending on what my patient needs. I don't have one cookie cutter technique. I can drop it on a pelvis, but I might use activator somewhere else. And it's because of what their body is going on, what emotionally maybe they got going on that day. And it's when you connect with them and you slow down, you're going to realize what they need.
That's amazing. I love all of that. That sounds, as a layperson, that sounds really interesting to
Yeah.
even just like I'd be a fly on the wall and just listen and watch. So, something I wanted to ask you too, because we met at Dynamic Essentials. So, clearly, you want students to be able to pass your class and do well and take care of their people well. So, where does philosophy fit into this mix for you?
So philosophy for me is telling the person that it takes time to get there,
Mm,
right? It took time for the body to break down, right? And that's one of our principles. And then it's going to take time to heal. And the philosophy is what I connect to the people for them to understand what it takes to get the body to hold. I don't have a adjustment that is for headaches. It's the body's way of healing it. And so I put those two together. Like, there's limited matter. They have arthritis or DJD. I'm not going to be able to get you to a full 100%, but the body can, and it's going to choose in what order it heals. So I put those two worlds together. Some people can go into the fifth dimension and talk about all the philosophy, and I glaze over. I'm like, oh, okay. But I work with someone who is so on top of the principles, Dr. Brian, that he's like, give it a little bit more time. It's going to heal. And I'm like, okay. And so we keep that anchor. The philosophy is the art of this. It's the
hmm
whole reason the body heals and it operates the way it is. I love anatomy. I'm an anatomy person. So for me to look at all the different people I see in a week, I'm blown away because not one person's made the same.
hmm
and you're all truly unique. And how their innate works, I just stand there and go, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Even, like when we look at children in a big family or an only child, where you see like these two parents made this blend of this person who is still utterly uniquely themselves and not their
Yeah.
parents. And then, yes, to think about sometimes when I'm in a busy place in a store or on an airplane or anywhere in a crowd, I look around and just think about, yes, how different each person is, each of their experiences, each of their stories. And yeah, it makes you wonder, like, what was their birth like? Were they born in the middle of the night and was it quick and easy? Was it long and hard? How did they do in middle school? Were they okay?
Yeah.
How
And
was their yesterday?
and philosophy for me, like chiropractic hasn't changed. Since
Mm-hmm.
it started with BJ to what we do right now, that philosophy of how the body heals and operates when you remove the subluxation, it hasn't changed. Modern
Yeah.
medicine changes every day. They say they have the new treatment, this is the best drug, and then 4 years later, that wasn't the best drug. It caused all this. So
Yeah.
for me, like I tell people, they're like, you love chiropractic. Yeah, because it hasn't changed.
Mm.
It is solid on the principle of chiropractic, which is you remove interference, they're going to get better. They're better
Yeah.
unsubluxated than subluxated. Now, how much potential you can have, it's untapped.
Yeah.
And so for me, like that is a solid. That's my anchor. It
I
never
love that.
drifts. Never
Yeah.
drifts. And like if I doubt something, I'm like, wait a minute. Nope. Go back to the basic, which is just to remove the interference, let their body do its job.
Yeah. Awesome. So, when parents are looking for a chiropractor, what are some things that you recommend? If your daughter was off in college and you were like, here's how you're going to find a good chiropractor where you are, what would you say?
I tell them to call the office and ask the CA, what techniques do your doctors do? And if they can come with one of the techniques like drop, they use the activator, they use hands. If they talk that way,
Mm-hmm.
then I know that they're in a technique office and someone who practiced subluxation. But if they come out and they're like, oh, we do stem, we do ultrasound, we do decompression, and you tell me all the gadgets you have,
Mm-hmm.
but not what the doctor does, that's a no for me.
Yeah.
And so when I try to find chiropractors for my patients, I call the office. I'm like, hey, what techniques does your doctor do? And if they can't tell me, A, your staff isn't trained in what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so very quickly, and also look at their website. Do they have pictures of the families up there? If they don't have pictures of the families, but they have auto accident cases, not really where you need to be for a family doctor,
Yeah.
family
Yeah.
chiropractor. So,
Yeah.
I look at, what do they have online? What are they showing their offices about? Even on there, they'll say what else they do, right? So if you have, supplements and everything else in the world, I'm like, okay, you care more about that than you do the chiropractic side. So, that's what I do. And I tell my students, train your staff. They
Mm-hmm.
need to know what it is you do. They should be able to say, these are the techniques we do.
Yeah. Love that. Well, what else do you tell students or anybody who's graduating, whether they're opening a practice or whether they're becoming an associate, about really telling these stories and expressing, like you said at the beginning, that you told the patient the story. So, what do you tell and encourage young chiropractors how to do that?
Why are they coming in? What are you trying to do? If you don't know what you're trying to do, how is someone supposed to follow you? So if you're a subluxation based chiropractor, you've got to tell them what a subluxation is, how they got it, and what it does to you, and then what your job as a chiropractor is. And then if they understand that, they're going to see the results. And then when is someone clear? And then when do they need an adjustment? If they're coming in every week and you're adjusting 10 to 15 things every week, there's an issue. So
Mm,
have a protocol to say when does someone need to be adjusted, and then stick to your guns sometimes and say, I know you might be hurting, but your nervous system, you're actually connected. You're clear. The body's healing. And so, going back to dynamic essentials, Dr. Sid said, do a doctor's report. Do a day one, do a day two, go to a doctor's report. Like, don't reinvent the wheel.
yeah.
These things are there for a reason. It educates your patient as you're going through. So when they come in the door, they know what they're there for. And then we adjust them, and then you bring them back and you do the doctor's report. And this is what my office is about. This is what you can expect from me. And then we go over, recommendations and finances. But, you have to have your message. If you don't own the message and know why you're putting your hand on them, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
There's no anchor and you're not serving the right purpose, whatever that is for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that there's so much of that in one side. I think that sometimes we want to just do something simple and basic and be like, well, I'll just focus on technique and, somebody else can explain it, or, they'll get my email newsletter and that'll kind of, explain it a little bit or things. But I love that you really blend this all out of you're strong in your anchor and explaining and educating. You're also strong in using your different techniques, mastering those techniques, mastering that art, so that,
Mhm.
like you said, you can pick, what does this person need on this day, and having that as an overall compass for what you're doing with each person. Because some of the business things like that of, okay, I'm going to do a report of findings, I'm going to do my recommendations, I'm going to, like, that doesn't seem fun. Sometimes I think, when you're like, oh, yeah, I mean, I just want to be adjusting people, not explaining it all.
And
You
you get to
work on
choose,
it.
like we do, 2 doctor's reports a week that we
Mm-hmm.
shut down our practice for the new patients. So, we were the same way, like, oh, I don't want to do this. But then after you do it and you see them up front shaking their head, like, oh, I get that. Oh, I get that. They change and your care for them changes where you're not just the symptom doctor. Like we say it in our office, like you can use our office 2 ways. You can use it like a Tylenol where you're only coming in when something's wrong. And that's not a very good model because there might be a time that you can't come back from that. Or you can use our office like a gym, which is to, when you're connected, the body's healing, you can operate. That's what we are. We are not that Tylenol office we're never going to be. We are the gym office. We want you to be checked once a week. I want your family. I'm going to use you to get to your kids because I don't want them to grow up with our issues.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be your family chiropractor.
I love that. Yeah, I really love the phrase, we're not just a symptom doctor.
Yeah.
It's those simple things like that when people are like, wait a minute, what does that mean? And then you explain it to them. Well, I think we could keep talking all day. I do want to ask you just one last question of what are some of your favorite ways? You talk about doing a report of findings and talking with patients, on those first days. What are some of your favorite ways to keep telling the story and keep educating them?
Social media has become our big thing, right? So when we have a patient celebration, put it up
Yeah.
because someone might not know that, hey, this is a thing I went to the chiropractor for and it's doing better. I also love like doing little reels and doing posts about this is what chiropractic can do,
Mm-hmm.
not just limiting us to back pain and neck pain, right? But to put in, did you know that your baby, when they're going through a growth spurt, should be adjusted? Did you know
Yeah.
that after an adjustment, ear infections can stay away for 6 months? Or when you have a fever and you're adjusted, it can break a fever. Those things that people don't associate us with. And if you're adjusted, this can happen and that can happen. So we use in the office, we put out articles that they can
Yeah.
read. We do boards that are everywhere, that every month is a different theme, and we put stuff up there. And then we write down the celebrations and we put
Yeah.
them up online. We put them out on the actual seats so they can see it. We have TVs that runs a slideshow and it has quotes, it has reviews, it has education. So it's always running. And I hear our patients all the time going, I didn't know that. And they
Mm-hmm.
saw one of the slides, but every day we have a YouTube that's 4 hours long of slides that it's playing every day. Just keep giving it to them.
Yeah, those are so good because it is so fun too when things like your boards change and things. I noticed, like, even in my office, just here, and it's just me in here, that if I don't move things a little bit, I quit looking at it.
Yeah.
So that is so helpful. I was talking with somebody else and we were saying, people learning in different ways. So there are the people that an article, like, that's what I love. I love black words on a white paper and I want to
Hmm.
skim through it and then I want to read through it. So having that available for people and then just the quick little bites on a board on that slideshow for the
Yeah.
moms who are like, I am not able to read an article right now with this baby on my hip. So I love
Yeah.
all of that. We could keep on talking forever, but I'm going to actually list out some ways for people to connect with you. Is there any place in specific that you love to connect with people?
You can use social media, Rebecca Lapham Yaun. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody. You can email me at lapham17@gmail.com, and I respond very quickly because I just want the next people to be as good as we are, because if you're lacking, you're not serving your community. And it's not just about us being great, you've got to be good. So if a chiropractor is like, well, what do you mean get good at a technique? Call me.
Yeah.
Let's get you to the GCC. Let's get you to the FCS so you can learn the technique that will make you better. If you're not good at doctor's report, record yourself, send it to me. I'm happy to listen and give you critiques because, I record myself and Dr. Brian listens to it. He's like, you didn't mention this, you didn't mention that. And we have an outline that we are always updating to try to make ourselves better at every point in time.
Awesome. Yeah, I can tell that you're a great teacher and that you really care about it. And that is the best way to learn. I love that you aren't just, like, okay, I've got to work on myself and keep it to myself, but that you're so passionate about sharing with everybody. So thank you for sharing that. So I'm going to put those links in the show notes with all kinds of fun stuff. But thank you so much for being here today and sharing.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.